So I use the number 1,000 people millionaires because we had a profit sharing program that would allow even like an administrative assistant to, over the course of their career, have a net worth of over $1 million. But when we implemented the ESOP program, our modeling indicates that their retirement benefits will actually be 3 times that.
Welcome to Breaking the Barrier. My name is Nick Madden. I'm the CEO of Cent, where we're leading a movement of Catholic entrepreneurs who are using business to renew our culture. We're breaking the barrier on the podcast between our faith and our business. Big thank you to the St. John's Institute for hosting us today and the amazing work that they do. And I'm joined with Joe Pomerenke today, a close friend of mine and a mentor. We cover a lot of different topics across AI and ESOPs and strategic business decisions. I think you'll find it incredibly valuable and highly impactful. Thanks for being here.
Joe, thanks for being with me, man. I appreciate it. We've been friends for a while. You've been my mentor for years, and now I get to chat with you for a few minutes with an audience, all the people watching.
You're making me blush.
Thanks for being here, man. I'd love to start out by just sharing a little bit about you and then letting you share more about where you came into Arco and what happened while you were there, because I think a lot of Catholic entrepreneurs probably don't have a concept of how you built and then transitioned making 1,000 people millionaires.
Sure, yeah.
On the way out. So I've got you spent almost 2 decades at Arco building a national design construction company, helping other organizations build out and scale, such as Topgolf. And then you transitioned out, giving ownership back to the employees in a pretty elegant way that has been really inspiring for me to hear about. And then now you are involved in philanthropy and investing into entrepreneurs and just making the world a better place and just walking the walk.
Yeah.
So maybe just start, like, what was Arco like when you got there and how to grow?
Yeah. I think I would probably start by saying I was taught at a very early age, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. So, challenge my facts, please. But and a lot of what I'm able to reflect on at this point in my life is really that it really doesn't have anything to do with me. It has to do with us. And the Arco family is an incredible group of people. I think it was very clear to me after a very short time in my life working in business that we were a service business. And in a service business, people are your only assets. So people was the most important. And I started with Arco Construction, which has a very unique business model. It's a bit like a franchise in that we really learned everything we know from a guy named Trammell Crow and our founders who came from a company called the Murray Company. So Bob Murray was a service provider to Trammell Crow, light industrial warehouse distribution in the 50s. And that's a great story, a story that I tell in a book that I wrote with my colleagues at Arco called A Better Way. Selfish plug there.
Yep.
But the proceeds of that go to charity, so we're proud of that.
That's great.
But anyway, and this is how we tell the story because time, it doesn't allow us to tell it to all of our associates. But essentially, I started as a project manager. I had an engineering degree, and I knew that I wanted to make money because it felt like everyone's life that around me, everyone I knew who had monies, their life around me seemed easier and happier and, the common things a 22-year-old thinks. So I become a project manager with an engineering degree. I'm mostly intrigued by this company because its employee incentive program. The company prides itself on giving 50% of the net profits to its associates in bonuses and 50% of the profits to its shareholders. So very much associate first company. And in fact, in the core values, we talk about creating a value for the client equally as the associate, which is really kind of neat. So to be able to stand on that foundation without even knowing it at age 22 was incredible. I was a project manager for 3 years, and then we went into the Great Recession. Actually, that was about the time that Topgolf came over from England, so that was a fun part of the story. That's the brand that everybody recognized, even though that didn't represent the majority of our business, and definitely doesn't today. But anyhow, I offer to be business development. And we're probably about a $30 million business in Chicago, but that was really about maybe a 10% of the overall enterprise nationally. We had offices in St. Louis, Atlanta, Tampa, and Philadelphia at the time as well.
Thanks for joining us. I know you hear this all the time from all different podcasters, but if you could like and follow us, it's a big deal. It helps us make more content like this. More people see it. We beat the algorithm. We can reach more Catholic entrepreneurs, help you break the barrier, bring your faith into business, and build something beautiful for the Lord. So please like and subscribe. It'll go a long way. Super appreciate it. I'd like to take a moment to share about our upcoming Sent Summit. It's going to be in Denver from September 8th to the 11th. And we're going to be gathering 600 top Catholic entrepreneurs, investors, and philanthropists to come together for conversation, for speaking, for community. We have great speakers lined up. We've got Arthur Brooks kicking off as one of the keynotes. We'd love to see you there. If you're interested, check out our website to learn more details.
Long story short, I went into sales. I failed miserably, which is the best way to learn anything. Fail fast. And after about 3 years and some great coaching from my mentor, his name was Brad Daniger. He's currently the chairman and CEO of Arco, incredible management professional. He said, just focus on the behaviors and the results will come. And I listened to that advice and he was right. And he gave me some incredible sales training.
Like what? What were just like, if you're
well, we practiced the Sandler sales system, which was really mostly a nomenclature that allowed us to be a process-driven sales organization. I also had a mentor named Ed Kwasnick, who was the other lead salesperson at the time, and he introduced me to the concept of question-based selling, which is pretty remarkable. Not easy to practice as a 28-year-old when you know all the answers, but
you've coached me on that.
Well, it's like it's a Bible, and like I think the work of Covey and the work of some of these other incredible minds as it relates to business management, sales, marketing, organizational structures. Like, we're students of history, right? So we're always learning. So anyway, coming out of the recession, we were able to do some unique things with technology to provide projects that were less building things and more renovating things, let's say. And one success led to another, and the next thing you know, we're a $100 million business. And my partners were willing to sell me a little bit of that business, and that was really generous of them and really awesome opportunity for me. So I bought a little bit of the business. We divided the business into 3 businesses, thinking that we could have individual leaders with other project managers like myself that were kind of rising to the challenge of leadership. There were 4 or 5 of us at the time, and mostly dear friends of mine. We were all in our late 20s and having a blast. And then, next thing you know, it's like we just keep trying to do the right thing and listen to the customer and provide solutions, and we grow at about 50+% for a little over 11 years. Yeah. And that compounds. So, this $100 million business becomes a $1 billion business pretty quickly, maybe quicker than we knew what to do with it. Yeah. And that's when the conversation about how do we continue evolving and transitioning this company happened. And that's when we explored the idea of an ESOP. And we were taught a lot about it from some of our sister companies in other locations. And it made a lot of good sense to pursue in earnest because we felt like our company belonged to its associates and the assets would be returned to the associates. And so I used the number 1,000 people millionaires because we had a profit sharing program that would allow even like an administrative assistant to, over the course of their career, have a net worth of over $1 million. But when we implemented the ESOP program, our modeling indicates that their retirement benefits will actually be 3 times that. Yeah. And today, I think we actually have less than, we have 800 or so, maybe full-time equivalent employees at the moment. But I think the impact of our work today is probably close to 1,000. And if you look at the impact of the ESOPs of the Arco family of companies that I wasn't responsible for, but I was in partnership with, it's probably more like 3,000. And I think that number will grow to 10,000 under the leadership of my friends that are still, and quite frankly, they're just dominating. They're just incredible people that can win.
So for those who might not be familiar, ESOP, Employee Stock Ownership Program,
Sure.
and What do you think when people hear ESOP? I think it's a poorly understood concept. Like when most entrepreneurs are thinking, oh, I want to buy this business or build this business and then sell it for some multiple or go public or whatever. And the ESOP's just an underappreciated and understood tool.
Yeah.
So what do you think people hear? Will like just play devil's advocate when they hear ESOP, they think this, and then what is it actually? Like what was it actually for you guys?
I mean, here's the hard part, Nick. It's like it is so bespoke to the company. There's 100% ESOP sales. There's partial ESOP sales. There's ESOPs for a certain purpose for aggregation and acquisition. There's ESOPs for the purpose solely of transition. So it's a very nuanced response. But in general, what I would say is, if you're not familiar with an ESOP, the guy who introduced me to it is a guy by the name of Jack Stack, who wrote a great book called The Great Game of Business. Another plug for my friend, he owns the Great Game of Business consulting company, and he's amazing. So if you want to learn more about this, I would call him. And so basically what you're doing is you're forming a trust, and the trust is the owner of the company. But inside that, and that's a nonprofit. And inside that trust, the management still has the ability to have an incentive pool. So the business can behave the exact same way, but the difference for us is that we were a collection of privately held S-corps where only a few, 10 or 20 of us, had the right to buy into that organization, because it was a financial risk that we had to take. We had to borrow money, we had to buy the stock, and we had to grow our stock. And then we had very few people, because we were such a young company, very few people had experience trying to sell that stock and exit it. So it's an
important point. You had to take a risk, borrow your own money, and buy into the company.
Sure, no, and that was kind of the principles of our founders, who are incredibly intelligent and thoughtful people. Jeff Cook and Dick Arnoldy, they wrote values and things that never changed, and they started in 92. I entered in 2005, and here we are in 2026, and they haven't changed, which means they're truths. That means they're right. So wonderful architecture. And so when we converted to the ESOP, I guess my point is, it's different, right? Now it has to behave a little bit more like a publicly traded company, because we are fiduciaries of a trust.
Yes.
And that trust is effectively the retirement benefit of all of our associates. And so while we talk about, making 1,000 people millionaires, what we're really saying is, hey, don't put the money in your 401k.
Right.
Invest it in yourself. We have a tax-free growth vehicle that upon retirement, you will have this great benefit.
Yes.
And along the way, we feel as if it's better to bet on ourselves than on others. And together we can increase enterprise value. And we're in the process of doing that now. And then the ancillary benefits of that are that now we have a balance sheet. We were an S corp without retained earnings and without debt. And now we are a balance sheet business where we have retained capital and we have debt on the books, which allows the company to grow in different ways. Particularly mergers and acquisitions is a strategy we could employ. Particularly investments is a strategy we can employ. We can choose to take a little bit more risk on pre-tax dollars to advance innovation. And at the end of the day, I think the purpose of all of it is to serve our associates so that they can serve their communities and the things that they value in their lives. And that feels good.
Yes. We know this, like the common good. And we talk about the common good, like in Catholic social, we talk about the common good. What you're describing is perfectly aligned with the common good. You have an ownership in the company that you're working at. You can bet on yourself. You had an opportunity to have a piece of something that you could affect, and you're going to work harder for it. I'd love to just dive in a little bit to what leadership looked like and what you saw the team that you were helping lead. What did the team do to just help leaders flourish?
Man, we had a lot of trainings. We're
people hear training and they're like, oh,
well, no,
gosh.
we relished trainings. And a colleague of mine, John Roach, took the lead on it, and then another colleague of mine, Jason McLaughlin, took the lead on it. And Lee Stalakis was always really critical to the whole process too. But We went out of our way to read, and we used book clubs as ways to think about our strategy and build our nomenclature and build our acumen. Yeah. And then we invested. We paid for a large group of people to go to West Point and get trained by the Army. That's one way of leadership, right?
Wow.
We paid.
That sounds kind of awesome.
It actually is super awesome.
Yeah.
And they've got a wonderful system of leadership intent, which is really great.
Yep.
That's just one example.
I've never heard of a company do that.
Well, we did lots of things. And we had offsites that were at our ranch when we were smaller, and then they moved to our offices, and then they moved to a hotel room. And we tried it all, right? And we were kind of a smorgasbord of ideas that kind of could be pulled together into some cohesive thought. I think today it's much more organized and much more formalized. And I wouldn't be surprised if we have the Arco, when we do have the Arco University, but I wouldn't be surprised if we're not producing our own curriculum.
Yeah.
But I think that at the end of the day, leadership is something we trained really well on. Management, which is distinctively different than leadership, I think is something we always need help with. So I think as it relates to leadership and management, I would give us a 9 or 10 on leadership, primarily because of the strength of our leaders. On management, I would probably give us a 6 or 7 because most of our people are always in a state of becoming. Now, our current chief officer, Brad, is probably one of the best managers I've ever met. And I think if we could bottle him up and emulate him in all of our leaders, we would be extremely successful.
What makes him a great man? I think it's very important for folks to have a distinction in their minds. And as they're building and scaling a company, there's inflection points where you're like, okay, we now need to invest into leadership that works for this organization here and be strategic about it. What makes Brad a great manager?
I think the intangibles. It's organized, steady, emotionally intelligent, reflective, but objective, high standards, looking for excellence in every moment, and willing to do the hard work of having the personal discipline to follow up. And to follow up without, he always used to say, trust but verify. And I think one day I just admitted to him, I think I said, it's so much work trying to be a strategist that I just don't have the mental capacity to be a manager. Maybe that's just not me. And so then I took on this mantra of, I got an MBA. I manage by absence. Yeah. I just hire incredible people and leave them alone, and they generally self-manage. But then, and I think Brad reminded me of it at multiple stages of my career. He would say things like, write that idea down and circulate it. Proceduralize that effort and leverage the procedure. And at times I would comply and be focused and do that. And at other times I would just continue being somewhat of an absurd visionary and salesperson. And, I think it takes all kinds, right? Yes. in the book I'm reading now called Traction that was given to me by a company I'm consulting, the EOS model, the visionary, the integrator, the leadership of sales and ops and finance, the basic model. I think I was the sales leader, but I was trying to be the visionary because my personality fits that. And Brad was absolutely the integrator, and he was also the visionary. And Lee was absolutely the ops, but he is actually probably the visionary. We were jumping chairs all the time. And I think as I reflect now, having not been working at the company for 3 years, I think that Brad is the ultimate integrator, and Lee is his predecessor and different leadership style, but maybe leans a little bit more towards visionary.
Yes, I love that frame. We teach EOS, a lot of components of it in our fellowship, and it was hugely impactful for me to just put language to something you're feeling as a founder, because a lot of times you're building something and it's like, man, is this me? How far do I have to go into manager land to make this organization work? In early stages, you got to go pretty far. But you mentioned, you're looking for great people and getting out of their way. The number of projects you manage right now is pretty incredible. Well, you're involved in so many different things.
I would just say AI agents make people look like Superman.
Okay,
and I think that's relevant. But I also
I want to go there.
Well, no, I think you also have to recognize, and even though at Arco we would always say we would never be general contractors,
Mm-hmm.
and people would like shake their head. I'm like, we're design builders, and there's a pretty big distinction there, but I won't get into that for today. The reason why I bring that up is because I wanted to use the word general contractor. By nature, a general contractor is an aggregator of a team.
Mm-hmm.
But they represent the entire supply chain. So they are stewards of all the great people, no differently than we're sitting in this room today, and we are actually stewards of Noah and Christina, because this is their studio, right? Like, we are stewards of their art and their skill by talking in their room, right? And so as a general contractor, you're stewards of all these people. So back to the point, you think I'm involved in all these projects. I think what I am is a steward and promoter of all these projects. And so when these projects need resources, or when these projects need network, or when these projects need strategic advice, I look for the leaders of those projects to solicit that advice from me. And sometimes they don't. And that's great, because you shouldn't answer if you're not asked. At the same time, sometimes it requires the use of some powerful technology to keep up with. And I used to complain for years. And if my partners at Arco ever watch this, they're gonna laugh. Yeah. They won't probably, but if they did, they would laugh and they would say, Joe used to complain, he used to say, we need email etiquette. I get too many emails. People don't know when to send an email. People don't know when to copy me on an email. People don't, and the truth is I was just angry. Well, I got Superhuman 8 years ago or 7 years ago or 6 years ago, whenever the heck that thing came out, and I played around with it, and that helped. And then I screwed it up because I created multiple different email addresses. And then I went to Stanford to learn what the heck I was supposed to be doing with all of this. And then I read a lot more, and I watched as it evolved, and I watched some cool movies and read some books. And today, what's happened since probably February 5th, I think, would be the date and time that most AI technologists would suggest is literally the day. We've hit an inflection point. And in the last 3 months, the tools have been better than they've ever been.
Yes.
At first, I think it scared some people.
It's still scaring some people.
Well, I had are we going to talk about AI? Is that what we were supposed to be talking about right now?
We could talk about whatever's valuable to
builders.
This is critically valuable to builders.
This is a real passion of mine. If you don't mind, I'm not an AI person.
No, you describe yourself as a tech bro, though.
Well, no, I was joking yesterday because I think you guys thought I was an architect and a builder, and I show up looking like a tech bro, and I'm like, well, I'm kind of both.
Yeah.
I'm actually just a farm kid from Missouri, so leave it there.
Yeah.
But no, like, I'm very passionate about this topic because I've been challenging the relationships I have in leadership in the Catholic Church to embrace the hope and not the fear. Okay. And I started it thinking I was going to inspire hope, and I think I scared a lot of people. I had this young person working for me who's exceptionally talented. Her name's Jordan. And I had an idea that my AirPod would be listening to every conversation, and I would record it, and then it would repeat back to me from a chat bot. At the time it was ChatGPT, the answer in my ear that I could repeat back to the person I was speaking to. And I was getting more involved in my faith, and a lot of people in my faith had the ability to quote the Bible, and I've listened to the whole Bible, thank you for that, during COVID. Good friend there, but I couldn't quote it. And I thought that to influence people that could quote it, I would try to. And so I put the headphone in, and I would start a conversation, and it would be recording, which I didn't get permission for, so that wasn't really fair. But I wasn't using the information. And then what would happen is I would open my phone as if I was taking notes. It's probably similar to the way you shot today, and I'd click enter on chat, and it would repeat back in audio in my ear the gospel quote. And I would repeat that out loud as if I was saying it from memory. And I scared a few people. And I met with my friend, Father Bob Dowd, who's currently the president of Notre Dame, And I presented a one-page document. And I said, I think the Catholic Church could use this tool to influence the value system of the learning of the model. And I got no response. And a lot of great leadership does that, by the way. They don't respond because they know that maybe the exploration was the process, not the result. But they start to include you in more conversations. And I've gotten included in a few conversations about this. And I think the Catholic Church is doing the right thing. And they've done the right thing for longer than I knew because they just didn't talk about it for a while. But they're getting involved, and they're using what I thought we should do is contribute to the stack, right? And like, if you know a little bit about AI, effectively, there's every bit of information in the world that these models are referencing to produce these results. And if we could just add all the Catholic information, if we could make everything that's published somewhat through the lens of Catholicism, then we could be ensured that the model is going to produce feedback that is aligned with our faith and our values. And I think that's just a good thing. Now, how can that go wrong? When you tell someone that you know the Bible and you don't, are you lying? Like, I mean, it just got to be really challenging.
It's a great case study, though, of just like a practical, you're like earnestly trying to use the tech.
Sure. But when I said it to a guy at a place in Indiana, I saw what it did to him. It scared him. And I thought, this is not the right way. So I don't know what the right way is, but I'm still experimenting with it. And it's helping me manage all these projects, and it's helping me manage my relationship with my wife. Youth sports is terribly difficult to keep up with 4 children. So it's helping me manage my calendar. It's helping me focus on the priorities I have in life. I don't think because of where I sit in the world, it's as much of a productivity tool, but I sent you some reading last night that I read before bed. And there's some reasons to believe that if you're not paying attention to it, you probably should now.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's happened relatively quickly in the last couple months. So
100%. It's interesting because I think about how fast we move now, and just the rate of, you could take a technological progression on the AI side, but that also just drives the speed machine that we live in. We just don't slow down. One of the things you've coached me on through the years, which I've really appreciated, and I'm trying at still, is just the value of being patient in business, right?
I think everybody that watches this that knows me is going to laugh that you said that that's something I could teach you.
Okay, well,
I'm the least patient person in the entire world.
The quote you gave was, you should circle in orbit once, and then when you think you should land, circle in orbit again, then circle in orbit again for making critical business inflection decisions.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No,
that is so funny though, like reflecting on it, like to tell the truth about how that came to be. That is a reflection on venture capital investment failures, private equity investment failures, and founding business failures that I've had.
And successes. Topgolf is a great example.
Of course that's true.
Yeah.
Yes, you learn the most from the pain, not from the joy.
Right.
But yeah, I appreciate that you feel that reflection is me demonstrating patience to you. And maybe that is. I mean, that's kind of neat to hear, because that might mean I'm a little bit further in my patience journey. But I say to the Holy Spirit, I said this on one of the mentor podcasts. It's like when I'm really feeling that impatience, I just say, "Come, Holy Spirit, calm my soul. Like, let me not be so anxious." And I think what I've found, just reflecting on life, because I've had this great opportunity to do so, the reason why you're impatient can oftentimes because you love so much. And the expression of that love is oftentimes challenged by the speed at which you're trying to help someone get caught up, or you're trying to help someone know what you know, or you're trying to keep someone from making a mistake that you made yourself that you just can't do. And I think now I think to myself, oh my gosh, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, my mom, my dad, my mentors, they knew everything I was trying to express to them through my love for them that I knew and was telling them. But for one thing, the change in technology and AI and innovation, because when you're 60 or 70 or 80 years old, in this book Decade by Decade that I shared with you, which I think is also, like the greatest zoom out of all time.
It's a great book. I've given it to so many people.
Great book. Yeah. It's just a framing book, right? It puts your minds at ease. But it's like, you have to think at a certain age, it's not about adopting new tools and growing in that regard. It's about mentoring and helping others who are in that growth phase of building their skill sets when they're necessary to provide for life in your 30s and 40s. So it's not a criticism that they don't have adoption or awareness of these tools, but they were not digital citizens. Mm-hmm. We were not digital citizens. Our children are digital citizens. And I've got the greatest story about that. We probably don't have time.
No. I wanted, one of the things I'd like to challenge, like, we have a big group of mentors at Cent. You're one of them. And you just have a huge heart for people. You pour time into people. And I find that there's a hunger amongst the builders to find good mentors, to find people who are willing to put time. But you don't have that much time. You don't have a ton of extra time. One of the reasons you're like, man, if I go on the podcast today, I'm going to get hit up by a bunch of people. If you're hearing this, don't hit up Joe for
airing my fears, not my hopes.
But it's true that, like, you love so much that saying no to people is just a huge bummer.
Yeah.
The
strategy to say no has been developed over time, though. It sounds like yes, but it's actually a no.
Yeah.
We talked about that this podcast.
Yeah.
So if it's published, you know that the yes was achieved. We call that an Oxford comma. And, they say, who gives up about an Oxford comma?
Yeah.
Well, I do.
Yep.
Keep going.
What would you like to say to your peers in terms of what you'd love for them to pour into?
My peers, like my mentor peers?
No, yeah, your mentor
like
peers.
Others throughout the country that have an opportunity like I do to talk to young leaders?
Yes. What do you want them to hear?
I want them to hear that Anne Frank quote we reflected on yesterday. You can never, I forget what it is, I'm sorry. It's like you can never lose by giving too much. Mm. I think what many people discover, and me fortunate to discover this in my early 40s, is that, and David Brooks uses words that I use a lot, happiness is about the self, and joy is about creating happiness in others. And joy, if happiness is a P, joy is a universe. And when you unlock the spirit of joy, it changes your understanding of what it means to live in heaven on earth. It's profound. There are no words, but the idea that something you could say, or the image that you could portray, or the example that you try to live in your own life could make other people happy, there is no feeling like it. And as a father, a young father, we're both young fathers, you see it firsthand in your family more than anything. And you know in your heart that the most important thing in the world is your children. And you find all kinds of ways to make them happy in life. And that same joy that we felt at Legoland is the joy that a mentor will feel when they unlock a mentee's potential by changing the way they see the world, whether it be a conversation, an email, or a meeting. And,
Amen.
I think about your friend Diego.
Amen.
And I told you, I said, I can't do enough for Diego. And I think you told me, maybe you've already done enough. And I needed to hear that because I want to get on a plane and go see Diego. Because I saw a man that I loved in one meeting, and it's impossible. And so why you're seeing or maybe sensing my tears of joy is because it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's an overwhelming
It's beautiful.
opportunity in life.
Yes.
You know? And I think that's what God is. I mean,
Oh, yes.
come on, like
Yeah.
that's who we are as people of faith. So
Totally
God
right.
bless, you know.
Amen.
We are just blessed.
Amen, brother. I know you got to run.
Yeah. Thanks for
can-
doing this.
Can I throw 3 rapid fire questions at you? Because I do this with everyone. And
You know I don't give rapid fired answers. I'm a storyteller.
I know, and people love it. but
I'm just going to give you quick answers. Though.
You give me quick answers.
And they could be like esoteric and weird.
Most people give esoteric and weird
Okay,
answers.
that's fine.
So this is
Esoteric and weird. Here we go.
Successful people choose the path for their children. Agree or disagree?
Say it again.
Successful people choose the path for their children. They put their children in certain things and design their world, or be whatever you can be. Chart your own way.
Successful people do choose the path. Disagree.
Disagree. Okay,
Disagree.
great. Do you have a 1-sentence reason?
No, I think successful people stand by to be advocates and supporters and resource organizers. Question-based selling. Let the child become what they should become and celebrate it.
Love it. People are our greatest asset. Agree or disagree?
100% agree.
Awesome.
There is nothing more important than relationships with others.
Amen.
Oh, other than a relationship with God, but that's what he says. God, relationship with others, right?
That's right.
Thanks.
All right, 2 more, or 1 more. I said 3. Money makes you more of what you already are.
Can I give a qualified response?
Oh, yeah. You can do whatever you want.
It's time dependent.
How do you mean?
I mean, somebody allowed me to have a lot more money than I should have a lot before I was really ready. If I would have learned, if I knew now what I would, or if I know now what I would have known then, or
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
the song is,
Yeah.
I would be a better steward.
Mm.
Right? So ask the question again.
Money makes you more of what you already are. I've heard that pushed as a challenge to be cultivating more virtue before you have it.
I would agree with that.
Mhm.
I think money is like a magnifying glass sometimes, and so is success and fame. And I think that people reveal their true colors as they gain wisdom in life, or as they don't gain wisdom in life.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we always have to lead with love, in the sense that we never want to judge people for the last time we encountered them, with the hope that they have evolved and changed. And so judgment's a tough thing, because you have to make judgment calls. You have to make decisions to keep things moving forward. And I just think in society, we would all be better if we time qualified our decisions and our judgments, and we're open to evaluating them again in the future. And so as it relates to your question, I think all I'm saying is,
Yeah.
sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes. That's not a real yes or no,
That's
but
great.
sometimes.
It's great.
It's great.
Love it. All right. So we're closing, and there's a lot of entrepreneurs in the middle of building their business
Mhm.
and building a family.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any word of encouragement for them in the arena? Grinding.
Yeah, I'm in the arena. They're in the arena. We're here for you. You are doing God's work. Taking risk for the benefit of others is very challenging. There's lots of emotions, and that's what small business owners are doing. I mean, sure, they're trying to promote and provide for themselves, but ultimately, organizations are nothing but a group of people. And if people are the assets, you're really doing it for others. It can be a mission of service, and that's what I think it should be. I think the best leaders are servant leaders. So the advice I would give them is, just remember that it's a marathon. And while the turns of a normal marathon are prescribed, the turns of a marathon in business are not. You're still going to run 26.2 miles. It might take you 2 hours or it might take you 20 hours, and you don't know if it's a right turn or a left turn. Just keep running. Just keep running and keep your eyes open. And don't put in a headset so you can't hear the person talking behind you or singing that lovely song or cheering you on. Keep your senses with you and keep going. Because if you're true to what you believe and what you dream will exist, you'll arrive at that kingdom someday anyway.
Amen.
Cheers to you, man.
I appreciate
This was fun.
Yeah, I'm so grateful.
I hope you enjoyed that episode and found it valuable. Thank you again to the St. John's Institute for hosting us. Check them out online. They do awesome work. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to see more content like this, we need you to like and subscribe so that we can reach more people and keep bringing our faith into business in really practical and tangible ways. Thanks for being a part of the movement.